Just give me some time, people. I'm connecting my earbuds.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with sharing window. Okay, so we were here yesterday and we were seeing all the factors that are tend to affect the temperature. Of course, the first and the most important factor that affects the distribution of temperature, let us put it here, is latitude. The reason we have seen yesterday, the fact that as you go away from the sun, away from the equator, sorry, okay, we have seen this day before yesterday or in the last week also, but again, just to say that not only does the angle change, okay, not only does the angle change, okay, you will see that the distance that this has to travel increases, and then the angle in which they have to pass through the layer of the atmosphere also increases as such. So all of this is very, very important. Basically, um, we need to know a bit of geometry if we are trying to calculate how much of this. Now you'll see that if this the radius of the earth we all know is 6,400 kilometers. So if this is vertical and I take the distance between these two, this is indirectly 6,400 kilometers. So on a very broad scale, let me say that distance to this point of every sunlight sunbeam and distance to this point, okay, it varies 6,004 kilometers. Of course, as you come down here, the distance is going to get lesser and lesser and lesser, but particularly beyond 40 degrees, you'll see that the curve starts taking its turn very rapidly. And as I said, that we have to look at this angle from three basic points of view: the curvature of the earth, which costs us this much distance as you go away from the equator. So the distance to be traveled by a general line is going to be more. Okay, then the angle of incidence. Okay, remember these two are different things. The angle of incidence, okay, this is the angle of incidence, okay, how it changes from area to area, and the distance to be traveled is again something distance. And the third aspect is the layer of the atmosphere. We know that it is thicker here and it is thinner here. Okay, so all put together, latitude plays an important role. Okay, if we are to note it down here, let us say the actual distance. Okay, the second one is the angle of incidence. Okay, you can place it anywhere, angle of incidence. And the third one, rather C, is the uh, thickness of the troposphere. Okay, that is how latitude plays an important role. Please remember this. Then the distribution of land and water. Okay, you'll see that here again the distribution of land and water. Let us take the second point: land and water. Okay, what all do we have in this? We have seen there are four aspects to this. What are these four aspects? The first one is transparency. Okay, you will see that it goes through here, but it does not go through here. Okay, and related to transparency is the heating capacity. Because this is a solid surface, this heats faster and cools faster. Water, it heats slower and cools slower. So we'll put these matters here: transparency, See, and heat capacity. Okay, these are seem to be so minor things otherwise, but see how important they are. Because water is a liquid, you'll see that it dissipates the energy as such. And of course, with that, you'll see that evaporation requires energy. That energy is supplied to the process of evaporation by the water itself. So, so these are the other 2 points which are going to make an impact, or the different when we speak about temperatures differentiated by land and water as such. Okay, movement, because water is a liquid. Okay, and what was the last one? I just forgot. Evaporation. Sorry. Yeah, navigate. So each of the point has further points. If you evaporation. Okay, the screen is shaking, so please don't mind my handwriting as such. I'll try to settle it a bit by just placing some sturdy surface behind so that it does not move much. Okay, so this is land and water, and then let us come to say the ocean currents as such. We all have seen yesterday a few basic principles of warm current and cold current. Of course, the poles are going to have cold waters, and the equator is going to have warm water. That's the basic thing. Okay, so you'll see that when and because the earth moves from west to east, okay, you'll see that the water is going to move from east to west, just like the winds you have near the equator. You have two, north equatorial and south equatorial. Both of them obviously are going to be warm currents as such. Okay, so remember that these are going to be warm currents. So where they're going to strike the surface, okay, and they are going to move into respective hemispheres. Okay, in the tropics, yesterday, remember, in the tropics, western margins are going to be warm. In the temperate western, sorry, I'll write it here. Temperate western margins are going to be cold. Vice versa. Okay, eastern margins are going to be warm, and here eastern margins are going to be cold as such. Okay, so this is how the ocean currents are going to be placed when you're going to look at the general map as such. Okay, water moving westwards, and of course the warm water spreading it as such. The only thing now you have to do is you have to remember the names of the currents as such. Remember, most of the currents pick up the names with reference to the place, okay, the place that is there nearest to that particular area as such. Say for example, this is Brazil. Okay, then this is Venezuela, this is Agulhas, this is Somali, because you have Somalia somewhere here, Gulf Stream, okay, here, okay, North Atlantic here. So you develop that logic, and see, this is Labrador, this is Alaska, this is California, so the Californian current. This is Peru here, so this is the Peruvian current as such. East Australian current. Okay, so that leaves very few currents to be understood as such. Okay, so but the point of reference here is that in the coastal areas, the temperatures would be different with regards its location. This is the western margin, this is the eastern margin as such. So the next point that we can take is basically ocean currents. The ocean currents as such. Okay, then we come to the next aspect, and what was this? This was the altitude. Okay, as you go away from the surface, okay, the temperature tends to fall. Okay, and here is an example of that. Okay, though they are nearly on the same lines, you'll see that because La Paz is at a height, the curve is going to be colder as compared to the Concepcion, which is down in, I think it's in the Amazonian basin as such. So that's another factor. Okay, so normally I will put it in that particular way. When I ask students to remember it, it is going to be latitude and altitude. Okay, latitude of course is different and altitude is different, but because it rhymes well, you will see that it it can be taken up as this as such. Now this is still what we had done yesterday. In fact, we have to do this also. We just mentioned about it and then somebody stopped me. Now here I wanted to just make a few clarifications. I thought that I was beyond 10:30 yesterday, and that is why when somebody said that sir has already asked us to already started the lecture, okay, you should have I believe you should have told sir that we are in our climate lecture and let us start a bit late as such. I thought it was 10:30. I was not wearing a watch, so I did not know, but I think it was still 15 minutes to go to 10:30, and I had to hurry up my lecture yesterday. Henceforth, remember that if you commit something to someone, you have to see that you have to honor your commitment. If you are going to give me your time from 9:30 to 10:30, see that if somebody asks you to join in, okay, you have to convince that person that we are already in a lecture, and he should excuse us for a couple of minutes as such. Okay, that was one of the reasons why we just broke up very abruptly yesterday. But then you'll see that there are, when we speak about continentality of a climate, you'll see that as far as a continent is concerned, okay, a continental location, that's interiors of a continent as such. Okay, say for example in India, Nagpur has a continental location. Continental basically means away from water, away from water. Okay, now because it is away from water, you'll see that land which has a continental location is going to heat fast and it is going to be cool fast. So Nagpur will have very high summer temperatures, high summer, and it is going to have low winter temperatures, particularly when I'm going to compare Nagpur and Mumbai. Okay, Mumbai is what I would call is a maritime location. So continental versus maritime location, or it is also called as coastal location. The more appropriate word is the maritime location as such. So because Mumbai is nearer to the water body, you'll see that the daily action and reaction between the air above the land and above the water, okay, it keeps the Mumbai temperatures in control, while Nagpur in summer is going to get very hot and in winter is going to get very cold as such. So this is, as far as next aspect is concerned, the fifth factor controlling temperature is the continentality of a location. Okay, so or you could say distance from water, water distancing or distance from water as such. So this is where I think we stopped yesterday as such, and then you'll see that in this context, okay, we have to see the daily rise and fall of temperature also. Okay, so the magnitude of daily temperature changes, daily temperature changes is variable and is influenced by a lot of locational factors as such. Okay, you'll see that variation in the sun's angle, we've already spoken about it. Okay, in the middle and the low latitudes. Okay, but you'll see that though the poles will experience a low sun angle, okay, you'll see that the temperature experienced during the day is going to be high. In the high latitudes is small. Of course, the fact here remains that the albedo is going to be very high as such. I think we spoke about this also. I now remember that I called this as a composite profile as such, because I think I said that you are taken this part of this profile, this part of this profile, and this part of this profile. You add them together and you get a general curve of this, and this is going to be your composite profile, daily temperature. Okay, so till around 6 o'clock you're going to have cold, then you'll be between 7 o'clock and say 5 o'clock in the evening, you're going to have warmer temperatures, more radiation is received than the last as such. Once again, you'll see that beyond 6 o'clock the radiation is less. Okay, you'll see that the radiation here is less. Similarly, the radiation here also is less, but the outgo is more, so this is going to be cooler, and this continues till the next 6 hours as such, and that's by early morning it tends to get very cold as such. Yesterday I said that the coldest part of the day and the hottest part of the day are going to be different at different latitudes as such. Okay, somewhere for a location like Pune, the hottest part is going to be around 230 as such. Now again, there is this very interesting aspect as such. Okay, and I think we should be understanding that. Okay, I'll try to um, put it here as such. When we're speaking about time, I'm just digressing a bit, but understanding this concept is very interesting as such. Okay, you have what is called as geographical time. Okay, then you come to what something that is man-based, that is going to be, of course, this is again local time. Then you're going to have what is called as standard time, STANDARD. Okay, that is or this is called as national time also, or Indian Standard Time in case of India. And then you're going to have something which is called as Greenwich time or international time as such. Okay, now these concepts came much later when man started traveling here and there. When we speak about geographical time, what do I mean? I'll have to rub this, I suppose. I'll clear this annotations. And when I speak about geographical time, okay, you'll see that for me, noon time. For me, noon time is going to be when I have the sun, which is overhead. Okay, this is going to be noon time for me. However, for a country like India, and since we have Pritham with us, okay, we are somewhere, Pune is somewhere here, Pritham is somewhere here. The latitudinal distance between Kolkata and Pune is going to be at least 1 hour. Now, interestingly, you'll see that the time wherein Pritham would have overhead sun is going to be much 1 hour ahead of us. Okay, 1 hour, 1 geographical hour.
2:30 to 1 p.m.
No, yours is going to be, I'm saying noon time.
12:30 to 1 p.m. 12:30 to 1.
12:30. नहीं,
Yes,
पहले होगा.
12:30.
It has to be before 12 o'clock because the standard time is here. It passes through Allahabad. So if it is going to be 12 o'clock, that's noon time at Allahabad. You have already experienced noon time. So it has to be around, now you check it today and let us confirm it tomorrow. It should be somewhere around 11:30. It will not come overhead because Kolkata is very near to the Tropic of Cancer. But I would say instead of overhead, I would use the word zenith. Okay, the maximum that the sun is going to climb here is going to be at 11:30 for y'all, and for Pune, in fact, it is 12:30. Because I remember when we celebrate zero shadow, okay, the normal zero shadow timing for Pune. Now, zero shadow is what? This is going to be vertically up, so you're going to have your shadow here. That means noon time. Zero shadow for Pune is 12:33. Okay, so you have to understand a few complications that come because of the curvature that includes our, and of course, the standard time issue as such. The difference between the western corner and the eastern corner of India is literally 2 hours. Okay, now what does that mean? That though the watch timing for everyone is going to be the same, the watch timing for everyone is going to be the same, but the sunrise in Arunachal could be as early as 4 a.m. Okay, while the sunrise in Gujarat could be as late as 6 a.m. Okay, 2 hours after that. So these are a few things that you have to logically understand. And these are some drawbacks when we speak about a standard time throughout a country. For example, a country as large as India as such. Okay, and in fact, you must have learned this in your undergraduate classes that it was thought about it in 1948 that India should have 2 standard times, but given the literacy conditions and the understanding of the timings, okay, as far as the population is concerned, Vallabhbhai Patel said that nothing doing, we would have more chaos than solution if we have 2 standard times. So let us have this. So we still go with this, but then you'll see that there are local adjustments as such. For example, in the eastern corners of India, offices start early. Say if the standard government time is 11 o'clock, you'll see that banks here will open as early as 9 o'clock. And if the closure time is 5 o'clock, okay, they may close at 3 o'clock as such. So normally the difference is 3 o'clock, and this process of how you adjust this is called as not tight, light, L-I-G-H-T, daylight savings. Okay, now you can read about what daylight saving is on Google if you want to go into the details as such. Okay, Pritam, you will check for us as to when the sun will be at zenith. I presume it should be somewhere around 11:30. Okay, if I'm not wrong. Okay, not at least if it's not before 11:30, it's going to be somewhere between 11:30 and 12 o'clock as such.
Sure, sir, I will take it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So thus you'll see that, as I said, that your peak time is now, normally it is shown this way here, but you'll see that because there's another aspect about all this which we have to remember, is that that you are going to have noon time. The sun is going to be maximum at the angle. Are you going to make a maximum angle of 90 degrees at noon time? That doesn't necessarily mean that your temperature is going to peak at noon time as such, because the sun is going to heat the surface, and then the surface is going to heat the air. So there is something which is called as a lag. Okay, and this lag is seen everywhere. I'll just explain to you what all this lag is about. You'll see that if you take the maximum temperatures for India generally, the maximum temperatures are around 230. The maximum temperatures are around 230, and the minimum temperature 230 afternoon, of course, and minimum temperatures are between 5 and 5:30 as far as morning is concerned. Okay, this is basically because there is a lag as to when the sun is beaming down, how it is heating the surface. The heated surface is passing the heat to the air, and eventually the air gets heated. Similarly, you'll see that when I am speaking about it on an annual scale, I'll just clear this. When I'm speaking about this on an annual scale, you'll see that the winter solstice is on 23rd of December. However, particularly as you go away from the equator, the lowest temperatures are towards the month of Feb, because the impact of the coldness takes time. It takes the full month of Jan before it comes to Feb as such. Similarly, as far as your hottest of the temperatures are concerned, you will see that while 21st of June is going to be your summer solstice, you have to watch the deserts. You'll see that the maximum temperatures actually come by late July or early August as such. This is called as a seasonal lag. That was a diurnal lag. What we were referring early is a diurnal lag, and this is actually called as the seasonal lag as such. Okay, so these are a few things which are off the track, but then these also are making an impact with the sense of temperature. Remember, temperature is something that is very, very important when you consider the whole subject of climatology as such. Thus, it becomes equally important to understand all these minorities also while we are studying the factors affecting distribution of the temperature as such. Okay, then the second aspect, the windward coast is likely to experience only modest variations. That's continental location and this as such during a typical 24-hour period. Okay, as the ocean warms less than 1 degree centigrade. As a result, air above it shows a correspondingly slight range in temperature as such. Then another aspect is with regards to this, an overcast sky. We spoke about this. I think I'm not very sure. So you'll see that if during the early daytime, okay, you have a cloud cover which comes up, the sun's rays are going to reflect off the surface of these clouds as such. As a consequence, the temperature here throughout the day is going to be cool, but it so happens that the whole day is open, but during the evening time you have the clouds which come here as such, and they block the radiation from here. The nights for these people here are going to be very warm as compared to other normal nights. So the timing of the overcastness of a particular area plays an important role also. And the fourth aspect that we have to understand is the amount of water vapor in the air. Okay, you'll see that the air tends to be drier, okay, and the air tends to be humid. Okay, given the temperature being the same, dry air is not able to maintain it, so you'll see that the temperatures will feel to be lower. But in a humid condition, the temperatures will feel to be higher, because the water vapor is going to hold the temperature with it as such. Okay, so that's another important aspect that you have to understand. You'll see that those of who are following the weather and radar app as such, if you go to some colder areas, particularly drier areas as such, if you want, you can search for a place on Antarctica today, or you can search for any place in Siberia. Okay, you'll see that you'll have a temperature which is minus 21 degrees, say for example, but then immediately below that they write feels as. I think Google also shows that feels as, and the feels as could be minus 27 degrees. Now, why does minus 21 feel like minus 27? Is basically because the air is going to be very dry. There is no moisture which is going to retain the energy, the heat, and that's why, though the temperature is minus 21, it is going to feel like it's minus 27 degrees as such. So these three aspects we have to remember. The variation in the sun's angle, where it is placed as such, also is going to play an important role. Then the overcastness, the timing of the overcastness of the clouds as such, and of course the amount of water vapor. When I say amount of water vapor, what are we meaning in geography? It is called as relative humidity. Okay, if the relative humidity is high, then the temperatures will stay to be high, and if the relative humidity is low, then the temperatures will remain to be low as such. You can mark this in during monsoon. Okay, presently you'll see that as we move towards March, April, and May as such, you'll see that the temperatures will rise, and then too we'll keep a watch on our respective. What we can do as an exercise every day is that each one of y'all will post the name of or you can just click a photograph of the place you are at, and you can post that in our group as such. We'll see how the temperatures differ in different parts of Maharashtra, and of course we have a variation from Kolkata. Preetham is going to post his temperatures from there as such. Okay, so let us try and practice this for a few days, and let us see if we can find any changing trend as such, because we are approaching summer and the temperatures are going to rise. In fact, I've posted today itself on my Facebook page that the temperatures are set to rise in the coming days as such. The lower temperatures will rise to around 19 degrees and the high temperatures will rise to around 38 degrees as such. So just see, by the next 15 days, say that means by 20th of March, the diurnal range is going to be nearly double. The lowest temperature is 19, the highest temperature is going to be 38 as such. So it's going to be very, very taxing. And in fact, you'll see that the feels like impact for Preetham is going to be higher, basically because he is in Kolkata, and Kolkata is very near to, is on the banks of the Hooghly, and of course it's very near to the Bay of Bengal. As a consequence, you'll see that the relative humidity is going to be higher and in Kolkata as such. So these are a few interesting things, and the more you relate your climatology theory with the things happening around you, the more you will enjoy it, because you would be learning it along with the fact that you are going to observe things around you as such. Then there is a very interesting and important aspect that where is the blank page that I was keeping with me? Oh, okay, it's here. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Now, you'll see that there is a very interesting aspect again with regards temperature, and in fact that is called as an aspect. That's an aspect. Now you'll see that in your mobile screens you have an aspect ratio, that or a photograph ratio which is 6:9 or 9:16 and so on and so forth. That's basically the ratio between the length and the breadth of your screen. Of course, this is not applicable to the aspect issue as far as geography is concerned. Now, what does this aspect issue mean? I will just demonstrate to you on this assets. Now, you can see that if we flatten the Earth's surface and we say that this is 0, and somewhere here there is 23.5 south, and you're going to have 23.5 north. Okay, the sun is not going to be going beyond this point. No, it's not going to go beyond this point. In fact, it travels from this point to this point only, and it is those months. This is 21st of June, this is 23rd of December, okay, and this is September and March. Now, what should happen? Okay, now imagine that you have a mountain at the southern part of South Africa. At the southern part of South Africa, of course, this is very, very exaggerated, but this will help you understand what aspect means as such. And in India, you have the uh, Himalayas. This is Himalayas, and let us say this is mountain, the hypothetical mountain. Let us say Mount Cape of Good Hope. Mount Cape of Good Hope. Now, see what happens in June as such. Okay, you'll see that even in June, when the sun is very near in the northern hemisphere, the sun's rays are not going to touch this part of this mountain. And with the reference year, the sun's rays are not going to touch this part of this mountain. Similarly, in December, the sun's rays are not going to touch this part of this mountain. And at the same time, it's not going to touch this part of this mountain as such. So, in the northern hemisphere, the southern faces are exposed to sunlight. And in the southern hemisphere, the northern faces are exposed to sunlight. So you'll see that you'll have a completely different ecosystem on one side of the mountain, and you'll have a completely different system on the other side of the mountain. This is called as the aspect in geography as such. I'll clean this and I'll just bring you to the point here as such. Okay, you'll see that in this part, you're going to have abundant sunlight. You have little moisture in the soil, you have good crops, you will have human settlements, particularly in the colder parts, you have human settlements here. But this side, you will have no sunlight, you will have no crops, you have no human settlements, you will have abundant of moisture. Now that is again dependent. Okay, and of course this tends to be forested, that also tends to be dependent. Now this forested is because man is not clearing it as such. But given the coldness, okay, you could have coniferous forest. Okay, you could have coniferous forest on these sides as such, but you will not have tropical forest because tropical forest requires sunlight as such. So this is how it happens. So this is coniferous forest here. You have coniferous forest here as well, but you'll have a lot of fruits and cereals here, and you'll see that settlements have to face the angle of the sunlight because man requires summer, the energy from the sun as such. Okay, so that's an important thing about temperature again that you have to remember, that a single mountain, because of the aspect ratio, okay, the respective, now if it's the northern hemisphere, it's going to be different. If it's going to be the southern hemisphere, it's different. If we are referring to the northern hemisphere, the southern slopes are going to be different as far as the northern slopes of the mountains are concerned. This is beyond what degrees? This is beyond 23.5 degrees, let me remember. Okay, so that is the aspect and the relation that aspect has with temperature as such. Then you'll see that as far as aspect also plays an important role with this regards, but let us speak about it later. Now, as far as temperatures are concerned, if I am going to speak about the world temperatures in January, okay, you'll see purposely they have written January, they are not written December, because the date is 23rd December, so most of the December has already passed and the effect is seen in January as such. What is the effect? Now don't go by see, this is don't go by these numbers, okay, because they have written Fahrenheit. Go by these numbers, you'll see they have written centigrade because we understand more of centigrade as such. Okay, so what will happen in January? The sun is in the southern hemisphere. Okay, the sun is in the southern hemisphere, so you'll see that the warmer parts are going, now these are average conditions. You could have pockets which are going to be of very high temperatures. So you're going to have the South American desert somewhere here, you're going to have the Kalahari desert here, and of course you're going to have the West Australian desert. You'll see that here you're going to have very high temperatures. All of this is in southern hemisphere because this is the period wherein the southern hemisphere is going to attain a lot of high temperatures as such. Okay, as against this, you'll see that northern hemispheres are going to be cooler. The northern hemisphere is going to be cooler as such. What else do you see? You'll see that in cooler as well as warmer areas, the coldest pockets minus 40 degrees. The coldest pocket is going to be on land. This is Greenland. Here again, though it reads in Fahrenheit, okay, the coldest pocket is on land. The hottest pocket again is on land. These are a few observations that you have to make if you have a question. Of course, I doubt if you're going to have a subjective paper, but if you have a subjective paper, you have to keep this in mind as what are the factors affecting or general observations as far as horizontal distribution of temperature. Horizontal distribution of temperature is maintained along with latitudes as such. They follow these latitudes as such. You'll see that though these lines are waving, but you'll see that they are more or less parallel to the respective latitudes as such. In fact, you'll see that this line here, okay, this is the equator, and you'll see that most of them are going to be parallel. Now, where do they change? Where do they change? Another major observation that we have to see is that if you see these areas, we saw that in these areas we have less of land, and because there is less of land, the water here is going to control and it's going to average out the temperature. So the lines are going to be very, very straight here as such. Okay, but as you come to with reference to so to say, the land is somewhere in between as such. In fact, you'll see that in the Indian Ocean, where you don't have much land here, you'll see that these isotherms, okay, they are so much parallel to each other. But near to land surfaces, they will curve. Now, in hotter areas, what happens? In hotter areas, you'll see that the land is going to be more hot, so they are going to curve down, and you'll see that when they move from land to water, they are going to curve up. Okay, so down here and up here, down here and up here, again somewhat down here and somewhat up here. Then as far as northern hemisphere is concerned, the colder temperatures is a bit different, but then the trajectory is the same. Okay, you'll see that this is going to be warmer. Okay, so it's going to be up, and then it gets cooler here. Okay, getting it? It's getting warmer here. It goes curves up, and then the moment it enters land, it goes up here, and then again in water is going to come down. Okay, so that is how it happens. Now, because this is more controlled by the sun's energy, you'll see that during winter you will not see much variations. Okay, but you'll see variations if you have a continental location. Okay, you'll have to listen to this lecture again to understand these aspects as such, because I'm very sure that you will not understand it at one go as such. If you understand it at one go, it's going to be something very fantastic as such. But you have to apply your minds and to see how these isotherms move, because we are going to move into what would be our July isotherms as well as such. As far as the July isotherms are concerned, you'll see that now the summer is now moved to the northern hemisphere and the winter is cold as such.
So your mic is muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Now, if you see here, even in the cold, there were some variations, up and down, but this cold was straight. And because here you have a lot of water, this cold is straight. Okay? And you'll see that the coldness now is much near to the equator. So the expanse here is increased, the coldness expanse has increased. Now, you'll see that while the hotness has now moved to the northern hemisphere because the sun has come towards the northern hemisphere, this is where it should be. This white line is where the sun should be. Because it is beaming down here, you'll see that the Sierra Nevada desert in the US, of course, this whole Sahara desert, and then the Central Asian desert all the way into this. And of course, this is a cold desert, but it moves here as such. Okay, now if I join this isotherm, I get what is called as the ITCZ. This is the location of the ITCZ in summer. Okay, remember we call this as the thermal equator also. Okay, this is the geographical equator, this is the thermal equator. And now let me tell you, why, or I think somebody, I think Preetham explained it to us, but I'll just put it again, that you have these trade winds blowing here when the ITCZ is here. When the ITCZ is here. Now the ITCZ has climbed up here. Okay, and it's going to go down here as such. Now you'll see that these trade winds from here are going to follow the ITCZ. But the moment they come to the northern hemisphere, here they were deflecting to their left. Here they come here and they start deflecting to their right. And that is why you have the southwest monsoon. Okay, please keep this as a very important point, because this could be a deciding question when you go for an interview. That normally global winds are in the form of northeast trade winds in the northern hemisphere. Then why is it that the monsoon is southwest? It's basically because the ITCZ is pulled up here. Okay, it goes all the way from here as such. Because it is pulled up, the trade winds follow. From trade winds from the southern hemisphere follow. And the moment they enter the northern hemisphere, they change their direction. And of course, हे सगळं एकदम कळणार नाहीये, पण हे थोडंसं ऐकून घ्यायचंय, थोडंसं डोक्यात ठेवायचंय. And when we do other processes in climatology, you will understand them as well. Okay, so that is a point that I wanted to make with regards to the direction of the monsoons as such. Just a moment, I will clear these off. Then coming back to the fact that the fact remains that you'll see that as far as the coldness, now this is the warm period. Okay, so you'll see that this is hot. See, the hotness goes polewards. The hotness goes polewards on the land as such, but the cold comes equatorwards on the water. This is how another way in which you could understand as such. As against this, in the southern hemisphere, again you'll see that the hotness travels towards the poles and the warmth of the coldness travels towards the equator as such. Okay, now if you put both these diagrams together, what do we get? We get the mean temperatures. Now, basically, for climatic purpose, let me tell you, for climatic purposes, mean temperatures are not that important. They are just a theoretical reference. Okay, but as understanding processes is concerned, what happens is your mean is max minus, say you max and minimum, you put them together and you divide it by 2. So that's a geometrical exercise, that's a mathematical exercise, I would rather say. It is not much to do with the winter or the summer and the winter processes and the summer processes as such. But for a general idea, an informative aspect as such, you could keep this in mind, that if you see what is happening here as such, unfortunately, I see that, oh, sorry, this is not the mean temperature. This is actually, I think, the range. Let me just, yeah, temperature ranges. This is not the mean temperature. These are the, sorry. These are the temperature ranges. Okay, so you'll see that the temperature range near the equator, where you're going to have a lot of rainfall, is very low. As you go away from the equator, it picks up. As you go further away, it picks up further. In fact, from this location, as you enter the Siberian highlands, okay, you'll see that the variation is 55 degrees centigrade. That means from, say, somewhere around minus 30 degrees to a maximum of plus 25 degrees. Okay, that could be the variation. The annual range of temperature is to that particular extent as such. Here again, you'll see that the range is going to be highest in the equator towards the, sorry, towards the poles in continental location. Here again, you have a 50-degree thing as such. But because Asia, the Siberia is larger as compared to North America, you'll see that the variation has immediately gone up by another 5 degrees here as such. So that is something that we have to keep in mind, as such that the variations are going to go higher and higher and higher as you go away from the equator. As the nearer the equator, the variations are going to be low. This is the equator. The variations either side of the equator are going to be, these are annual. Okay, remember when we speak about ranges, you could have diurnal range. Okay, you could have seasonal range, and you could have annual range as such. Okay, as I said, annual range is very, very deceptive. This is not going to teach you any climatology. This is helpful only as far as an information is concerned, as numbers are concerned. What is important is seasonal range and diurnal range as such. Okay, so when you're looking at a very small piece of time, okay, when you're looking for something in 24 hours, in 48 hours, maximum 72 hours, then you have to look at diurnal. But when you are looking at it in months, 3 months, 4 months, then you'll see that seasonal is going to play an important role as such. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. Okay, please note these points down if you would tend to forget this as such, because such things come out of a lot of reading. I'm sharing this with you. I don't say I'm reading a lot, but because I've been teaching it for so many years as such, these things come natural to me. And a person who's studying the subject for the first time would obviously miss out on these facts as such. And that's why आपण म्हणतो ना, मी एवढ्या माझ्या वर्षांचा अर्क तुम्हाला सांगतोय की थोडक्यात हे कसं समजून घ्यायचं. So that is how, as far as the range of temperatures is concerned. This is something that I wanted to take up. This is something which is called as inversion of temperature. Okay, this is a continued topic. As far as inversion of temperature is concerned, what exactly does inversion of temperature mean? That normally, if you see that you have, if this is degrees centigrade, let us say this is degrees centigrade, and this is the height in kilometers as such. This is 1 kilometer. Okay, as you rise, okay, from the surface, normally the temperature is supposed to fall. So if the surface temperature is around 8 degrees, let me say, it is supposed to fall as I go up. If this is going to fall very rapidly, this is going to be a weather phenomena for me. But an average, we say that it is 6.5 degrees per 1000 meters. Okay, or you could say it's 0.6 degrees per 100 meters also. Now, this is the normal lapse rate. What would happen at any point of time, should it also happen that instead of falling, the temperature should increase? If this is increasing, this is against normal conditions. Does this happen? Yes, it happens because of some say weather phenomena that tend to happen. And this increase of temperature with height, okay, because you'll see earlier we have said that normally temperatures will fall with temperature. This is supposed to be falling as I go up. Okay, but is there a condition? Yes, there is definitely a condition that in some cases there is going to be an increase, and that's why this is called as inversion of temperature. And as far as this inversion of temperature is concerned, there are various types of inversions of temperature. I would like you all to just look into the details of that if you read, because it's thoda sa confusing hai. And that's why I'm going to close my lecture today. When we start tomorrow fresh, I'm going to start with inversion of temperature, and let us see if we understand. There are so many types of inversion of temperature. Remember that the science behind the inversion is the same. It's only that the scales will change. Okay, and it's the say the elements which make this happen that will change a bit here and there. It could be the physiography, it could be the pressure, it could be the temperature, but the science behind it is the same. म्हणून जास्त कन्फ्यूज व्हायचं नाहीये. आणि मुद्दाम मी आज तुम्हाला एवढंच सांगतोय की instead of falling, if the temperature increases as you go up, that is going to be called as inversion of temperature. You can go into the details of this on Google and just check what all this means as such. I'll stop this for now, and if you have any questions for me, you could just ask these questions. Yesterday's PPT, I've just posted the link of it on our group. Before you can think of questions, and by that time, what I'll do is I'll just check the number of students attending. Aditya Navle, Aishwarya Limaye, Akshay Shilke, Poonam Bharmal, Prajakta Jadhav, Pratik Kokde, Pritam Ghosh, Revati Shinde, Rohit Gaikwad, Rishikesh Aglave, Sharayu Takavne, Sumit Nanavre, Sunil Rathod, Tanuja Tushar Kothule, Usha Vasave, and Vandita Bhamre. Are the students present for now? Yes, I'm waiting for your questions. If you have any questions, please let me know. What questions? Yes, Pritam, you have raised your hand, so you can unmute yourself and ask me a question.
Yes, sir. Not a question as such. I have found out the exact noon time of Kolkata.
Okay,
Sir, it's 11:47 a.m.
I told you it has to, because you are to the east of the what standard line. Standard
Yes.
line that passes through Allahabad, it has to be before noon, and because we are to the west, our noon time is supposed to be after this.
Sir,
Okay,
12:46 for Pune.
12:46. Okay, for the present time, because
Yes,
in
yes.
summer it comes 10 minutes earlier. It's 12:33.
I have checked for today's date for both the places.
Acha, because we are still passing out of winter, just passing out of winter, it could be 10 minutes more. But during the summer of the northern hemisphere, Pune has its zenith time of 12 hours and 33 minutes. That's what it's around 32, 33, 34. That's the zero shadow day. That happens somewhere on 8th of August, I suppose. Okay, so that is, thank you for that information, Pritam.
Yes, sir, I've shared
other
the
students-
photo in the WhatsApp.
Yeah, you have checked?
I've shared the photo in the WhatsApp group.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, other students, any inputs you have from your side? ज्या रेटनी मला तुम्ही काल हाकललं लेक्चर मधनं, मला तर थोडासा डाऊटच यायला लागलेला आहे की तुम्हाला क्लायमेट आवडतंय का, समजतंय का. आय एम व्हेरी डाऊटफुल अबाउट इट. आय एम नॉट व्हेरी शुअर, बट आय एम अ बिट डाऊटफुल अबाउट इट. समजतंय का नाही रे पोरांनो? का माझं प्रीतमच चालतं फक्त? हॅलो, समजतंय का नाही? बाकीच्या 16-17 जणांना समजतं का नाही?
सर कॉन्सेप्ट समजून घ्यायला प्रॉब्लेम येतोय सर. ऑनलाईन
कुठल्या
मुळे
concept?
खूप डिस्टर्बन्स होत आहे.
कशामुळे?
सर ऑनलाईन क्लासेसमुळे ना असं कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन नाही होते सर, आणि कॉन्सेप्ट नाही समजून येते.
ओके. आय नो क्लायमेटमध्ये तो प्रॉब्लेम होऊ शकतो, आणि त्याच्यामुळेच मी हे स्टायलस वगैरे वापरून आजचं समजलंय का?
हो
आजचं
सर, म्हणजे
समजतंय?
पॉप्युलेशन, जिओग्राफी आणि इकॉनॉमिक समजतंय, पण जिओमॉर्फॉलॉजी आणि क्लायमेटॉलॉजीला प्रॉब्लेम येतोय सर.
ओके. बरोबर आहे. बोथ ऑफ दीज सब्जेक्ट्स आर वेल बेटर टॉट इन क्लासरूम्स एज सच. आणि कसं आहे की मराठीमध्ये याच्या कन्सेप्ट कमी अवेलेबल असल्यामुळे पण हा प्रॉब्लेम असेल तुमचा. लेट मी सी, आय ट्राय टू सर्च फॉर यूट्यूब क्लिप्स, आणि त्या पाहून काही फरक पडतोय का पाहूयात. नाहीतर मग आपण परीक्षेच्या आधी एक ऑफलाईन कसं घेता येईल विचार बघतो मी. थिअरेटिकली लेट अस मूव्ह अहेड, बट येस, आय कीप दिस इन माइंड दॅट अँड आय कॅन अंडरस्टँड ती थोडी डिफिकल्टी क्लायमेटच्या बाबतीत राहणारच आहे. जिओमॉर्फॉलॉजीचं म्हणाल तर माझे जे लोअर क्लासेसचे लेक्चर्स आहेत त्याच्या लिंक्स अवेलेबल आहेत. इफ यू वॉन्ट, असेच मी लेक्चर्स यांचे जे घेतलेले आहेत आमच्या BA BSc लेवलचे, आय कुड शेअर दोज लिंक्स, बट हे तुमच्यावर एक्स्ट्रा बर्डन नको, त्याच्यामुळेच मी काही जास्त त्याच्याबद्दल बोलत नाही. मी क्लायमेटच्या बाबतीचं जास्त कॉन्सन्ट्रेट करीन. तुम्ही जे काही कळत नसेल तर त्याचं थोडीशी एक नोंद घेऊन ठेवत जा. एक तर ग्रुपवर टाकत जा, किंवा मी जेव्हा हे असे इंटरॅक्शन्स घेतो तेव्हा तुम्ही ते सांगत जा. आपण दुसऱ्या दिवशी त्याचं काय एक्सप्लेनेशनचं प्रयोजन करता येईल का याच्याबाबत मी सांगायचा प्रयत्न करतो.
ओके.
ठीक आहे, देन दॅट्स ऑल फॉर टुडे. विल कंटिन्यू टुमॉरो विथ इन्व्हर्जन ऑफ टेम्परेचर. आणि मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं जसं की ती डिक्शनरी ज्यांनी घेतलेली आहे, हे जे टर्म्स आता येत आहेत, हे टर्म्स तुम्ही वाचायचा प्रयत्न करा. माझ्या जुन्या कम्प्युटर मधनं क्लायमेटॉलॉजीची डिक्शनरी जर मला मिळाली, फक्त क्लायमेटचे आपण टर्म्स काढलेले आहेत तुम्हाला दिलेल्या झेरॉक्स मधनं, तर ती मी आय विल शेअर दॅट विथ यू ऑल. आय ट्राय टू bring that up by tomorrow also. That's all for today. Then you can leave this meeting and you can join your next class as such. Thank you very much.